You know, some stories just really stay with you. I was reading about this friend, Franklin, who had Alzheimer's.
Oh, right.
And even though the disease took so much, his memory, his wit, the one thing it couldn't touch was this deep sense of wonder he had.
Mm,
The source described it almost like a emotional DNA, just there.
that's incredibly powerful, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really suggests wonder isn't just a nice feeling we get now and then.
Yeah.
It's fundamental, baked into who we are.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, really getting under the skin of wonder, using Monica C. Parker's amazing book, The Power of Wonder, as our guide.
Mhm.
Our mission, really, is to explore wonder, not just as some, fleeting mood, but as this core human thing that actually changes us, our perspective, our bodies, our souls, our whole lives.
And when you step back, you really do see it everywhere. It just like spirals through the human experience. You find it in art, in faith.
Oh, totally. The sound of music, filling a room, or even just the way a great leader speaks.
Yeah, or think bigger picture, a sunrise over the Grand Tetons,
Wow.
an electrical storm from a plane window,
Yeah.
the birth of a child, a new idea popping into your head,
Yeah.
even, the end of a life. It's woven through everything.
Which kind of raises a big question, doesn't it? We live in a world that seems obsessed, absolutely obsessed, with chasing happiness.
Right.
But look around. The source mentions some pretty stark numbers even before COVID, like 280 million people dealing with depression globally.
And 40 million just in the U.S. with anxiety. It's staggering.
So it makes you wonder, maybe focusing only on happiness is, well, maybe it's the wrong goal.
That's what Parker suggests, that wonder might be something more lasting, more impactful.
Something that offers, and this is a quote, nothing less than transcendence and a feeling of oneness with all universal life. I mean, who wouldn't want a piece of that?
Absolutely. So the way we're tackling this today is what the source calls the lumper approach.
Right, not the splitter.
Exactly. Instead of dissecting wonder into tiny bits, we're looking at it holistically as this whole composite of related states, traits, emotions.
It's that old Aristotelian idea, isn't it? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Precisely. And a really key point the source makes is that wonder actually allows for both positive and negative feelings.
Which is important. It helps us avoid that trap of,
Like this.
what's it called, toxic positivity.
Exactly. Where you feel like you have to be happy all the time. Wonder is more complex, more real than that.
Okay, so let's start digging in. Where do we begin? Maybe with the language of emotion itself.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. Emotions are, well, they're innate, complex things, right? Features that help to survive. Darwin even thought the way we express them is pretty universal across cultures.
But studying something like wonder scientifically, that seems tricky.
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. The source uses this great analogy. It's like studying lightning bugs in a jar.
Yeah.
You catch them, but you lose something essential, right? They're flashing magic in the dark. Psychologist Peter Hendricks was critical of this kind of reductionism. Just saying anger's amygdala activation doesn't capture the whole feeling of being angry.
Right, it feels like it misses the point, and it touches on that whole, brain versus mind debate.
Exactly. Is the
Yeah.
brain just the hardware? And the mind? Is that what connects us to these bigger experiences like wonder? The source even mentions these almost metaphysical descriptions like the brain is a TV receiver and the mind is the third eye.
It definitely feels like parts of wonder, kind of.
Right.
Resist being pinned down by science alone.
Which leads us nicely into the first element the book outlines, watch. This is all about openness to experience.
Okay, watch. So, like, paying attention.
Yeah, but more than just passively noticing. It's seeing the world through this lens of openness, observation, a willingness to look, and importantly, faith that there will be something worth seeing.
So it's an active choice. Like, instead of just walking down the street on your phone, you actually look at the details on a building or a leaf.
Precisely. Believing there's always something new, even in familiar places. Scott Barry Kaufman calls it the drive for cognitive exploration of inner experience.
And this openness, it connects to some really interesting traits, doesn't it?
It does. Things like intellectual curiosity, creativity, artistic expression, cognitive flexibility. Also, a high tolerance for ambiguity, not needing everything neatly wrapped up.
And a low need for closure. Being okay with uncertainty.
Exactly. And when you look at personality models, like the Big Five.
Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, ocean.
Right. They give a much richer picture than just putting people in boxes like, say, the MBTI. Openness isn't fixed. It's more like a spectrum you can move along.
And this is fascinating, the idea that parts of our personality can change. Carol Dweck's work.
Yes. She argues that while maybe our core temperament is fairly stable, those in-between bits, our beliefs, our goals, how we cope those are changeable, malleable.
With self-awareness and practice, she gave that example of the junior high kids.
Oh yeah, the ones who did better on tests just by being told intelligence isn't fixed. It's like a muscle you can build.
It really shows we have more agency than we think.
Which brings up another point, the importance of just being alone with your thoughts sometimes.
Right. Didn't Pascal say something like, man's unhappiness comes from not knowing how to sit quietly in a room?
He did, and Bertrand Russell talked about the benefits of boredom, of fruitful monotony, instead of constantly needing that quick fix of entertainment.
Which is harder than ever now, right? I mean, we have literally all of human knowledge.
In our pocket.
Yeah, we never have to be bored. And maybe that's not such a great thing for wonder.
Well, think about consciousness. John Locke coined the term way back in 1690. He defined it as the perception of what passes in a man's own mind.
So tuning into our inner world
Helps us explore the outer world with more curiosity. That internal observation is key.
Okay, so what does this mean for us as we get older? The source suggests we tend to get less curious.
Yeah, because fewer things surprise us or challenge our existing mental maps, our schemas. Things just kind of fit into what we already know.
So the takeaway is, we have to actively seek out wonder. It doesn't just land in our laps, especially later in life.
Precisely. Which leads right into the second element. Wander, curiosity.
Okay, so watch is opening up. Wander is following that curiosity.
Exactly. And human curiosity, this wonder-type curiosity, it's different from just an animal exploring for food or safety.
Oh.
It's tied into our very human need to make sense of things.
And there's biology behind it, right? Dopamine.
Yeah, curiosity triggers that dopamine response, which motivates us to explore. It also activates the hippocampus, which helps us remember things we weren't even trying to learn, incidental memory.
But that dopamine lure can have a downside too, like getting sucked into endless scrolling online.
Definitely. Unhealthy internet usage is a real risk there. But think about positive applications like that Street Wisdom initiative.
Oh, I love that example, founded by David Pearl, using walking to spark discovery.
Right. It forces you out of your usual routine, gets you exploring physically, metaphorically.
And that story from Scott, asking the street for business advice and then literally bumping into friends who gave him exactly what he needed. Amazing.
It really is. It highlights how stepping outside our habits can open doors.
So this ties into cognitive traits too, like need for cognition.
Right. NFC, the enjoyment of thinking, of tackling intellectual challenges, and then there's this opposite sort of need for cognitive closure, or NFCC.
Wanting that single, simple right answer now.
Exactly. And people who are high in NFC enjoy thinking, and low in NFCC, okay with ambiguity, tend to be more wonder-prone.
Which brings us back to the digital world, those echo chambers.
They can make us more resistant to new ideas, reinforcing what we already think, which lowers our NFC and raises our NFCC, makes us less open to wonder.
Eric Kruglanski put it bluntly. People high in need for closure are not open to persuasion. They know what they know.
It really underlines the importance of pushing past simple boredom into something genuinely mentally engaging, rather than just passive consumption.
Okay, so watch, wander. What's next? Element 3 is whittle.
Absorption.
Whittle. Yeah, this is about getting so engrossed in something, so engaged, that you commit all your attention to it.
Like losing track of time when you're reading a great book or working on a project you love?
Exactly. The source calls it the gateway to self-transcendent experiences.
And people who are naturally good at this kind of absorption, they tend to be more open, curious, empathetic.
Imaginative, flexible, and they often naturally drift towards activities that are known wonder-bringers, music, art, nature.
This sounds a lot like flow, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's concept.
It's very related. Flow is that specific type of absorption where you feel completely in the groove, effortless attention. It happens when the challenge of an activity perfectly matches your skill level.
Hard, but not too hard.
Right. And there's some debate, the source notes, whether flow is just a type of curiosity or maybe even a light form of self-transcendent experience itself.
Interesting. So absorption is kind of the doorway. It's not just a gateway to those altered states, those self-transcendent experiences or STEs. It also seems to boost feelings of awe and makes things like meditation or even psychedelics more beneficial.
Okay, so before we get to the big wow, there's something in between absorption and awe. A catalyst.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
An expectation violation. It sits right there, bridging the gap. It's the trigger.
An expectation violation, so something unexpected happens.
Right. Our brains are constantly trying to be efficient, filtering information, matching patterns, using those mental shortcut schemas, heuristics.
To figure out what's important, what needs attention.
Precisely. An expectation violation is when a pattern we anticipate just gets broken, interrupted.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, the book uses a great one, a light switch that doesn't turn off. It's surprising, maybe annoying. It creates a little cognitive dissonance. You investigate, find the reason. Simple.
Right.
But imagine a cat just vanishing into thin air right in front of you.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
different.
That's awe-inducing. It's not just surprising. It shatters your fundamental understanding of how the world works. It challenges those deep-seated schemas. That's the expectation violation that leads to awe.
Big difference between a broken switch and a disappearing cat.
Huge difference. And the brain's salience network is involved here, the system that filters stimuli and ranks importance. It helps determine if an unexpected event is just a puzzle or a paradigm shift.
Which brings us perfectly to the fourth element. Wow, whoa. Awe itself.
Ah, yeah, it's distinct from just surprise. It's when that expectation violation is so profound, it challenges your existing knowledge, it structures your schemas to the point where you just can't easily fit the new information in.
You have to adjust your whole worldview, basically.
You do. And even the word awe has this amazing, almost mythical history. Old Norse, Danish, linked to things like the helm of awe, this symbol of protection, and even the paralyzing power of serpents.
Wow. Terror, curiosity, connection. It's all wrapped up in there.
It's a pretty good description, isn't it? And think about one of the most powerful examples, the overview effect.
Astronauts seeing Earth from space.
Yes. Rusty Schweickart, the Apollo 9 pilot, his description is just stunning. Seeing Earth so small and so fragile, you can block it out with your thumb. He said, realizing that you've changed forever. Total perspective shift.
That's profound awe. So, what have scientists found are the consistent features of awe?
Well, experiments keep showing three main things. One, it's a distinct, discrete emotion. Two, it gives you that feeling of being a small part of something vast. The small self, which lowers your ego, but not necessarily your self-esteem.
Interesting distinction. And three,
It makes us more pro-social, more cooperative, more generous, more connected to others.
and scientifically they're actually able to see this now. I read about Bolato's study.
Yeah, the Cirque du Soleil study. Incredible stuff. Using EEG brain imaging during the show. Oh, they trained an AI that could predict, with like 83% accuracy, if someone was experiencing awe just by looking at their brain activity.
That's amazing. But the really wild part was what happened after.
Right. Afterwards, people who'd experienced awe were more likely to say, yeah, I'm the kind of person who experiences awe. They literally redefined themselves in their history, the source says.
A single awe experience changed their self-perception retrospectively. That blows my mind.
It shows the sheer power of these moments. Now, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's tricky to say awe evolved for one specific reason.
Blani Shiota suggests evolution's more holistic, right? Traits stick around if they're generally beneficial overall.
Exactly. It doesn't need one single killer app, evolutionarily speaking. If it helps us connect, cooperate, learn, it's good overall.
And what about that physical feeling? Goosebumps.
Aesthetic chills
Yeah.
or psychogenic shivers. The source calls them a common and universal indicator of a wonder bringer.
And different cultures describe it differently.
Yeah, beautiful examples like a strong feeling invade me in Tigrinya or feel the steam of happiness in Indonesian. It shows how deeply physical wonder is, not just mental.
Okay, so we've unpacked the elements. Watch, wander, whittle, wow, whoa. How do we actually bring more wonder into our lives? Let's talk about living it, starting with nature.
Nature is a huge one, and the science is really solid here. Experiencing wonder in nature physically calms us down.
How?
Well, it reduces cortisol, that's stress hormone. It boosts vagal tone, that's your nervous system's calming network getting stronger. And it even lowers pro-inflammatory cytokines.
Those are linked to inflammation, right? Like heart disease, other issues.
Exactly. So it's a real physical health benefit. And the good news is you don't need a trip to the Grand Canyon every week.
Small doses work too.
Absolutely. Small doses found in everyday life, the quotidian.
That's where things like wonder walks come in.
Perfect example. Just intentionally looking for new things on your usual route, noticing big views or tiny details. It's about priming yourself.
And this connects to that idea of biophilia, our innate connection to nature. Miyazaki's research on forest bathing.
Shinrin-yoku, yeah. He showed that being in natural settings activates brain areas tied to well-being and stability, and it quiets down the part linked to negative rumination.
His theory is that we're still genetically adapted to nature, right? And modern city life creates this mismatch.
That's his belief. We evolved over millennia in natural environments, and our systems still crave that connection.
So awe in nature isn't just pleasant, it can actually heal, reduce stress, PTSD.
There's evidence for that. The source mentions a study with military veterans on a whitewater rafting trip showing reduced PTSD symptoms.
Wow.
And even in extreme situations.
Yeah.
Think about inmates on death row, completely starved of stimulation, finding comfort just talking about the weather or treasuring a tiny pressed wildflower found somehow.
It really speaks to how fundamental that need for wonder is, even when everything else is stripped away.
Absolutely. And another really accessible source is art and architecture.
Art as a window into the history of human emotion.
I like that. It's essential, isn't it? Something people protect, even in the worst circumstances, like those furtive sketches in concentration camps, or the cellist Anita Lasker-Wallfish, who said playing in the camp orchestra literally saved her life.
Incredible resilience. And art isn't just paintings in museums, right? Tolstoy's definition was broad.
Very broad. Anything that communicates emotion. So music, dance, poetry, design, food, it's everywhere.
And buildings, too. Architecture can be a huge wonder bringer.
Definitely. The source lists specific features, things that suggest infinity, like huge scale or repetition, silence, even a hint of threat or danger, bringing nature inside.
Immensity, detail, a sense of sacredness.
Right. Think about the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, how it uses tight spaces, then opens them up, uses light and shadow to create this incredibly powerful, awe-inspiring, reflective experience.
It's not just looking at something impressive, it's feeling it, being moved by the space itself.
And these spaces often bring people together, which leads to the next area, fellowship, connecting through shared wonder.
Ah, yes. Things like concerts, rallies, religious services, sports.
Theater, dance, all those communal experiences are amplified by a shared sense of wonder. It builds bonds, creates a collective identity, makes everyone feel part of one unit.
And it has those pro-social effects we talked about with awe.
Exactly. It makes us more willing to help each other be more generous. That wonder-driven connection broadens our perspective, makes our own problems seem a bit smaller in the grand scheme of things.
And the vagus nerve plays a role here, too, the mind-body nexus.
It seems to be central. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory connects the vagus nerve to our social engagement system, how safe and connected we feel. It links to the oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
So practices like Sufi whirling or Buddhist chanting, they're actually stimulating the vagus nerve.
That's the idea. They're described as vagal triggers that foster connection, empathy, love, both with ourselves and with others. A physiological pathway to communal wonder.
Fascinating. Okay, what about wonder in learning and education? This seems crucial.
Hugely important. Wonder-based learning is about fostering that openness, that intrinsic curiosity, using expectation violation, inspiring awe.
Instead of just memorizing facts.
Right. And the payoff is huge. Deeper learning, more creativity, better verbal skills, more abstract thinking.
John Dewey stressed curiosity, didn't he? Saying if you don't nurture it, it just fades away.
Exactly. He said curiosity needs to be honed on an exploratory whetstone. It needs to be used, challenged, fed.
Which makes you look critically at a lot of traditional schooling.
It does. The source argues many classrooms actually discourage wonder, pushing for concrete answers, treating subjects like they're finished, set in stone.
Instead of encouraging students to question assumptions, to explore.
Right. Kirk Schneider called it a profound tragedy, how we often dampen that natural sense of humility and wonder in kids.
Are there better models out there?
Oh, definitely. The book mentions Ubiquity University, where students get credit for real-world experiences driven by their own passion, working on a coffee farm, learning woodworking.
Valuing life experience, not just book learning.
And Bolato's Scientist program, turning classrooms into labs where kids become scientists, asking their own questions. It's a totally different approach.
And I love the example of Kruti Parekh using magic tricks.
Yeah. Using magic to teach foundational skills to kids with disabilities, tapping into that inherent delight and surprise.
It also touches on things like ADHD, where that dopamine system works differently, needing either huge effort or something really fascinating to bridge curiosity into deep absorption.
It shows how understanding these mechanisms can help tailor learning.
Let's loop back quickly to resilience. We touched on it with nature and art.
Right. Viktor Frankl's idea about finding meaning. being the primary human drive.
But the source notes it doesn't have to be some grand existential meaning. It can be simpler, like a doctor in a disaster knowing their purpose is to help.
Absolutely. It's about having that intrinsically motivating pursuit,
Yeah.
something that comes from within, that helps us cope with trauma, stay clear-headed.
Okay, now, religion. Historically, a major home for wonder.
For sure. The source talks about this common framework for movements, an ideal, a need, and a deliverer figure or concept.
And people who are more open, more cognitively flexible, are maybe more likely to have a wonder experience.
And if they have a pre-existing belief, say in God, that provides a ready-made home or explanation for that awe-inspiring event.
It's an interesting thought that the Apollo missions, giving people that direct personal sense of awe looking back at Earth,
Might have actually contributed to the decline in formalized religion over the following decades. A shift in where people found that sense of transcendence.
but wonder can be manipulated too, right? The dark side.
Yes, that's crucial. Charismatic leaders, like Jim Jones, can harness wonder. Max Weber's idea of charisma, emerging in crisis, offering a big promise.
And those elements of wonder, openness, curiosity, letting go of ego can make people susceptible if that leader is destructive.
It's a potent reminder that wonder is powerful, and power can be misused. We need discernment.
Okay, shifting towards inner cultivation, meditation and gratitude.
Meditation is complex, as the source says, a Byzantine topic with hundreds of traditions.
But they share a common core.
Yes. Training the mind, learning to let go of distractions, focus attention, or maintain open awareness.
And practices like mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, they actually increase openness.
They do. Increase openness, decrease neuroticism, both foundational for wonder and self-transcendence. And for really experienced practitioners like master yogis, these changes can become stable traits, leading to this constant state of awareness and compassion.
And gratitude. It's not just being thankful, it's a wonder bringer itself.
Yes, it's described as another self-transcendent emotion. It shifts our focus outwards, away from ourselves and our worries, creates that psychic small self.
It makes us more open, flexible, curious.
Exactly. And it's practical. You can cultivate it through journaling, sharing things you're grateful for, simple practices with big effects.
Which brings us to a really hot topic right now, psychedelics.
A very active area of research. Psilocybin especially is showing real promise for things like severe depression, particularly in people facing terminal illness.
The Johns Hopkins study results were remarkable.
Weren't they? 80% of patients saw a significant improvement. Over 60% had total remission of depression after just one guided session.
And the key insight isn't just brain chemistry changing.
Right. It seems the drug facilitates this potentially life-changing experience. It grants a new mental flexibility, a whole different lens to see life through.
That sense of small self again and deep connection.
Exactly. So psychedelics are framed as potentially a fast track to a major expectation violation, a big wah-ah moment that could reshape your entire outlook.
How does it work in the brain?
The thinking is they cause an acute destabilization of brain networks. This leads to increased openness, then that pliable small self awe state, which makes the mind much more receptive to therapy afterwards.
But the context is everything.
Absolutely critical. So the source is very clear. Just going out and dropping acid for an afternoon is unlikely to give you the therapeutic benefits.
You need the right set and setting, preparation, guidance during the experience, and crucially, integration afterwards, processing what happened.
It's a serious therapeutic process, not recreational use, that shows these benefits. That distinction is vital.
Okay. So wrapping all this up, this deep dive into wonder, what's the big picture?
I think it's the duality. Wonder isn't just in the mind or just in the brain. It's not just body or just consciousness. It's science and soul. Exactly. And we need to embrace that duality to really grasp its power and meaning in our lives.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. Wonder isn't always pretty. It's not just sunsets and rainbows. The source talks about the potential violence in wonder, like the intensity of birth or a butterfly struggling out of its chrysalis. There's effort, struggle, transformation, not just gentle beauty.
It's part of the whole fabric of life, the light and the dark.
So the invitation is, look inward. Find that resonate frequency within you. Let it ripple out.
Approach your day. Approach other people with that sense of wonder. Like a beginner seeing things fresh.
Open yourself to the source says fucking magic, and maybe that's the right energy. It's about those small shifts, those marginal gains.
Making little changes that add up, that cascade outwards. It takes time.
Like starlight, right. The light we see tonight started its journey hundreds of years ago.
Beautiful analogy.
Mm.
So for today, let's just breathe, believe, and follow wonder.